Hey, welcome back again. We just wrapped up the video on how to build a basic chord, basic triad, major or minor, which is based off the 1, the 3rd, and the 5th position. Then, of course, your 3rd position determines whether it's major or minor chord. And now we're going to get into extended chords, not into the crazy 11th, 13th, 9th, that kind of stuff, but 7th and 9th, suspended 2nd, suspended 4th, that kind of stuff. So let's get started here. That's a little more information than the last one. But let's go with the key of C, okay? Well, let's write out, if we're to build a C major scale, C, D, E, F, G, A, and B, that right there is our C major scale, okay? Now, as we learned before, if you want to build a C triad, C major triad, you take your, let's number these for you, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, okay? I know it kind of tapers downhill, but bear with me here. Alright, so let's take our 1, 3, and our 5, which gives you a C, an E, and a G, okay? And that is a C major triad. Well, like we said before, if you want it to be minor, that 3rd would have to be a minor, which would be flattened down a half step. Be a flattened 3rd, becomes a minor 3rd. Alright, and as we know, a 6th and a 7th flattened gives you a whole C minor scale if you flatten the 3rd, 6th, and 7th. But right now, C major scale, the 1st, the 3rd, and the 5th position, C, E, G. That is a C chord. If you play those 3 notes, guitar, piano, whatever, gives you a C major chord. Alright, so let's talk about extended chords. And the first one you usually get into when you extend a chord is by adding another note to it. And that would be the typical dominant 7th. That would be adding the 7th note. Now, there's a difference between when you hear a dominant, you hear like a C7 chord, it'll be written like this, C7, all right? And then you'll see C, major 7. There's a difference between this chord and this chord. That is what they call a dominant 7. Just a C7, the C major 7 is a major 7th. There's a difference, okay? So let's explain the difference between the two 7 chords. You see the dominant, the C7, more often than you do a major 7. Major 7 is more jazzy sounding. Okay, so get that glare off the top there. So let's get into the 7th. Obviously, we look at our numbers. You want to make this a 7th chord, you're going to add the 7th note, which is a B. All right, so let's put the B on here. Right now, if I do it this way, this is a major scale. That is a major 7. All right, so if you were to play these notes, you would have what's called the C major 7. All right, that is that chord, C major 7. And like I said, that's more if you were to play it, if I have my guitar out, you would hear it's a very jazzy kind of rich sound. It's got a nice tonal quality to it. But more so as guitarists, if you're playing a lot of blues, you play more so a dominant 7th, which what you do is actually, for blues, you flatten that 7th note. So you would actually take your 7th, this is a C major scale, but you're going to just flatten that 7th out, all right? And that gives you a flattened B. Not the key to C. You flatten that 7th out, so you add this, you flatten the 7th. Now this is what you would call a C7 chord, C dominant 7. Okay? They usually don't call it a dominant 7th when you're playing with other guitarists, musicians. You call it a C7. All right? And that would be how to play that chord. It's just a flattened 7th, very bluesy sounding. All right? So that's the difference between a major 7 and a dominant 7th. A lot of guitarists I jam with don't know that. They just know, oh, C7. There is a difference. You've got to flatten that 7th down to make it a dominant 7th or that bluesy sounding chord. The blues uses a lot of the flattened 7th in there. Okay? So let's erase that off. Let's go back here. Now, let's talk about a 9 chord. I said I won't get into 11th and 13th today. We're going to keep it fairly simple. But let's say you want to play a 9 chord. Normally, there's a difference between... Let me explain this concept here. You got your 1 through 7. Okay, now you're saying 9, there's only 7 notes. How do you play 9? What you do is you continue on. This would actually become the 8th note. It's an octave. The 8th note is the octave. It would be a whole 12 steps higher. And then this D would be the 9. Okay? Normally you don't have there's no 10 chords because your 1, 3, and 5 are always going to be in there. So that would actually be 10, that'd be 11, that'd be 12, that'd be 13, and that'd be 14. But these notes, your 1, your 3, and your 5, we'll erase that, they're always going to be in the chord for the most part, okay? Except for you drop a few out for extended chords, but don't worry about that. So you're not going to have an 8 chord, a 10 chord, or what we call a 12 chord, because that 1, 3, and 5 take priority, okay? Same way with the 7th, you're going to erase it. It's not a 4, the B wouldn't be a 14. All right, so basically your chords you would have, you can have a 7th chord, you can have a 9th, 11th, and a 13th. A little tricky when you get into like minors and major chords and you're changing stuff up, but we're going to focus on, I'm not going to worry about the 11th and 13th chords today, but the 7th and the 9th, okay? So, if we want to play a C9 chord, you can do it two different ways. If someone says a C9, that usually implies that you've already got the 7th in there, and it's a dominant 7th. Okay? Getting behind myself here. So if you're going to play a C9, it's pretty much a given that you have the 7th note already in there, which is a B, but it's always a dominant, so it's going to be B flat, okay? You flatten that down, and now you have the B flat in there, okay? And you would add a D at the end. So if you were to play that, C, E, G, B flat, and D, that would be what we call a C9 chord, alright? C9. There's another type of 9 chord you could play, and that's called a C add 9. And that's where you don't play the 7th. You leave the 7th out and you just add the D note in there. And that would actually give you the C. You'll see it like this. C add 9. You've seen that in a lot of the tab sheet stuff if you can see it there. But that's just adding the 9 note in without the 7th. So if it's a C9 chord, you see it written out as C9. It's implied that your 7th note's already in there. They go in steps. So if you were playing a C11, if you saw that somewhere, you would know that the 7th and the 9th notes are already in there as well. Okay? I said I'm not going to get that deep into it in the 11th and 13th today, but so there you go. Or if you have a 9th, it's implied the blue note, the 7th, flat and 7th, is already in there. Alright? If it's an add 9, just add the D to the triad. Alright? Now, that would be how you play a 7th or a 9th or an add 9. Okay, so we've broken down, we've got your basic triad, your major 7th, your dominant 7th, your 9, and your add 9. There's another one that you can have the D in here, and it's actually called what they call a sus2 chord. You have a C sus2, if you've ever seen that, or sus. There's two different types of sus chords. Sus stands for suspended, and you're going to, basically a C sus2 and a C sus4, you're going to suspend the third, which is the E, the third note of the chord. You're going to suspend that, and you're going to replace it with the 2nd or the 4th, depending on if it's a sus2 or sus4. So let's say we want to play a C sus2. You would actually suspend your 3rd. You don't play the 3rd. C sus2, you're going to replace it with the 2nd. You would put your D in here. So a C, D, G would be a C sus2 chord. You'd see it written out as C sus2. Okay? That would be this chord. C sus4. Same concept. You're suspending the 3rd. You're not going to play that E. And you're going to put the 4th in there, which is an F. Okay? So C sus4. That D now becomes, take that out. Instead of playing your 3rd, you're going to play the 4th, which is an F. Okay? So C sus4, C, F, and G. So basically, get that glare off there. When you see a sus chord, a suspended chord, you're suspending the 3rd note of the triad, and you're going to replace it with a 2nd or a 4th. And sometimes you can just, if it's just a sus and doesn't have a 2 or a 4, you're just suspending it, and it's not even being played. You don't play that 3rd at all. It just becomes like a C and a G, and on a guitar you'll see like, it'll be the C, the G, the octave C, a higher G, you know, and the octave of the G. And that's just a suspended. You don't have a 3rd. It's neither major nor minor. Same way when you're doing a sus2 or a sus4. When you're adding that 2nd or 4th position in there, that chord is neither major or minor because chords are major or minor determined by that 3rd, and we don't have a 3rd in there. Okay? That is how you play down to 7th, major 7ths, 9th, add 9ths, sus2 and sus4. So you're going to see if you add a sus2, you're going to have a D in there, that's the 9th. Well, you don't have the 7th, you don't have your 3rd, it's just going to be a sus2. Okay? That's how they determine it. So, there we go. This video's a little longer, but that is how you play extended chords. You can try in each key, write out your key like G, A, D, whatever key you want to work in, and then build your chords around that. Okay, so there you go. And next video, we're going to get into putting these chords together and actually how chord progressions are built. So we'll see you next time. And any questions, comment in that box below, of course, and I'll be more than glad to answer them. Thanks.